Hey everybody, it is Kulipup here again, and we are going to do some more words from my spirit. However, this is for my next journal. Now, it was really funny when I was looking for a journal, because I had that first black notebook I had, and just because I wanted something hardcover to write on. When I went, after I completed my first journal, I went and I was looking. I went to the dollar store just to look for a new journal, and it was very funny because I liked the hardcover, and I was scouring it, I couldn't find it. I thought I looked everywhere, and then I walked up the aisle, and then I came back down, and I'm like, oh, okay, fine, I'll just pick up something. And there was this book that I didn't see before, and it's very funny because it was the only one, and it had carefully taken notes on it. I just thought that was really funny. And you'll find that when I finished this book, I went back to the dollar stores to see if I could find another one or so forth. And the same thing happened. I couldn't see a damn thing. It was all these flimsy covered books. And then it happened again. I looked and there was this one little book that said, "Follow your dreams." But again, that's for the third series in my carefully taken notes from my spirit. So this is carefully taken notes from my spirit. Now what we're going to go through in this one is when I started to speak to my subconscious. All right, so this is where I was developing or understanding the different frequencies when I was speaking to my spirit versus speaking to my subconscious versus speaking to other things. So let's go. Now, this book starts off a little harsh with a bit of a telling off. The first thing I wrote was not a question. I thought, okay, let me just write and see what happens. Because that's how I started off my first book. I started off by just writing, and I wanted to see what my spirit had to say to me, or what I had to say to myself during the first parts, which was, how can you be so blatantly disrespectful to me and everything we do together? I gave you tasks to do and then you ignore them. Why can't you see that this is so important? The yoga, grounding, silence, and study. You are doing great, but since you have acknowledged your period, all hell breaks loose and you forget about all we have work to accomplish. That came out and I was just like, what? So I was like, but I'm just so tired. Doing yoga is great, but I'm finding it hard to move. Then I thought my spirit said this. Then why don't you try kneeing yourself in the face? That jarred me because I was like, why would my spirit say this? I would never say this to myself. So I thought, if it's not my spirit I'm speaking to, then I said, subconscious. What the hell was that? I have to bury you, don't I? We can't work together. My subconscious replied, yes, we can, but you have to stop being stupid about fear. It is necessary to keep us all alive. This was before I understood that my subconscious fed off fear, that it was an entity that physically needed my fear. Me? No. We know the truth about life now. We know there is nothing to fear. We know who we are and what we are, so fear has no place next to God. My subconscious? Okay, I'll stop for the most part, but I will still be here with my fear. I will keep us safe. Me? We are only safe when we are harmonized with Source. Don't ever assume that you are above Source. You will prevent us from further development and we will stay stagnant. Subconscious? No, we won't. I will harmonize, I promise. Me? How do you expect to get that done? Subconscious? By listening to you when you give me a command, and I will stop feeding you sabotaging images when in the silence also. Because this is what happened. I was struggling with my subconscious. I was trying to be in the silence, but because it couldn't get to me in terms of my mind, it would give me images that would cause my mind to stray. And I said, okay, good. I'm glad we came to an agreement. Is there anything I can do for you also? Because I was still naive, thinking that, oh, my subconscious is there to protect me in some way. Now, so subconscious, oh, is there anything I can do for you also? Subconscious, no, just promise to keep us safe. Me, always and forever, or my spirit said always and forever. Subconscious, okay, it's settled then. And then me, excellent, I look forward to the future, and now. Then I carried on, so my subconscious had been spoken to, so now I was speaking to my spirit at the time, which was Clip. So when I say me, it's going to be me meaning my ego. When I say my spirit, it's going to be Clip. So me, what other things have I been done in my past lives? Clip. Oh, not much really. We have for the most part been just ordinary people. I have never desired to experience fame and fortune, just sweet and simple, which is very, very true. I have never ever decided ever had a need to be famous. Doesn't float my boat at all. And I was like, okay, but what were all of my professions? Clip. Priest, nun, sister, dog groomer, label puncher, baker, aristocrat, lunch lady, school teacher, hat maker, butcher, pharmacist. All of these different things I've experienced. Right. So with that, this is when I discovered who I was in one of my main past lives. Because whenever we are going through past lives, our past lives reveal so much about our character, about the patterns that we have done, about the lessons that we are supposed to learn. So if you don't know your past lives, I would really, really, very, very much so recommend finding out your past lives, because not so that you can see, oh, I was somebody famous. You may have been, but you may not have. A lot of people just have very simple past lives. But so you can pick it apart and see what you can find, the patterns. But anyway, so I looked into my third incarnation. I was Nicholas Copernicus, astronomer and mathematician. This was between 1473 and 1543. I died when I was 70 years old, which was my life path number, 7. Anyway, so I decided to speak to my spirit about this. Me. What was it like being Nicholas? Clip. Frustrating. Me. How so? Clip. The era was so behind, all I did was point out common sense and still wasn't believed until hundreds of years later. Then my subconscious came in and said, God, humans are so stupid and frustrating. Clip said, yes, but we love them anyway. But even though it was frustrating, I'm glad we made a difference to society, even if it is hundreds of years later. Because although I died in 1543, my theory wasn't accepted until the 1700s or the 18th century. So it was hundreds of years later. And if you don't know anything about Nicholas Copernicus was the first person to put out there that the Earth revolved around the sun and we were part of a solar system. And Galileo picked this up later and put it out to the church. But me as Copernicus, I was just like, I'm going to tell my community, but I don't want to have no business with the church, right? So you can look up a little bit more about Nicholas Copernicus if you like. Now my subconscious. So again, I will just repeat that. So Clip said, yes, but we love them anyway. Even though it was frustrating, I'm glad we made a difference to society, even if it is hundreds of years later. My subconscious. Yeah, but what about all the bullshit people who made me doubt myself so much I spent hours and nights trying to prove myself wrong just so I can prove them right? clip said, this is where our trust issues started. Because again, going through this, I had lots of deep trust issues in terms of trusting myself. Then there's me coming in on this conversation. Wow, that is so much pressure to bear, but Nicholas still made it through. Like, I was like, well, you still made it through. Like, clearly we're in a history book. My clip, my spirit. No, we died a horrible death, mentally. I died doubting myself and thinking, what if I'm wrong? And I didn't find the one answer that would have proved me wrong. Me. That is so damn sad because I was bang on correct the whole time. Clip. Just like you are now, but still doubt yourself. Snap out of it. Your intuition is strong. Trust it and use it. And there we go. Now going into this a little bit. Which life did I get my focus issues from? Sorry, that was Nicholas Copernicus. That where we ended it there. And I guess so. I'll just say that when I was going through this, I was definitely contemplating it because I was still very much so controlled by my conscious entity program. And I still had so much doubt in myself because of it. And when I was saying that, when my subconscious revealed to me, yeah, but what about all the bullshit people who made me doubt myself so much? I spent hours and nights trying to prove myself wrong just so I could prove them right. And it was because Nicholas, I was told, the people, when I told people my theory, and you have to think the Catholic Church was incredibly powerful during this time. Anyone who went against the church was blasphemous. You see what happened to Galileo. He was thrown in prison, right? I didn't want that. So when I put my idea and out there, because again, I was an astronomer and mathematician, you know, my calculations were correct. But when I put it out there, they said, you're wrong. So instead of me going, no, standing up for my belief, standing up for my truth, which was correct, my calculations, I instead said, okay, well, maybe I am wrong. Let me try to find out how I'm wrong, because I know I could disprove myself better than anybody else. So I could prove them right. Because I wanted to basically say, hey, if I can't prove you right, then I must be right. And that is why we died a horrible death. Clutching my book, clutching my papers that I was going to publish only the next week. I died before it was truly published and given out there. And good thing too, because when it was published, the church, they would have crucified me anyway. An old ass man, they would have crucified me. So that's what we got for there. Now, you know what? We will leave it at that. We will leave it at that. So that is my first words being told off and going through Nicholas Copernicus. Bye-bye, sweets.